We heard listening sessions. We had a community meeting where we launched the study. There was the ribbon cutting here. I'm really glad I was here in the room. Yeah, and I'm glad to be part of this team and the project. It really is this solemn responsibility, I feel.
In those listening sessions and hearing these stories, and I heard them in the beginning, and I was here and met some of the community members and tested their water. I don't see much peace of mind 3 years later.
Right.
And some community members probably have it, but some really it's like it happened an hour ago on some level. Did you feel that? Like it's still so raw and such an open wound.
Absolutely, yeah. Because I think, like you said, it seems some people are they decided to stay and they want to be reassured that this was the right decision, for their family, that they're not continuing to expose them or put them at risk, that this is a safe place. There's so many beautiful parts about this community. That's what I heard. They still were playing a lot of what ifs, and they would like some reassurance, probably one way or the other. So, yeah, and as you said, this can take time. Few people acknowledge that. It could take time to get those answers.
Just be as clear as we can be so that people don't have unrealistic expectations and so they don't feel disappointed. They're not let down.
The study will see, are these health problems higher in people who were exposed to the derailment? They're not setting out to prove a link. They look at the relationship.
Right.
I think it's obvious. Something happened here,
Yes.
Even if it's just the stress alone, people have symptoms and problems, and I think this study will do its best to answer it. And by the things it's doing are it has a comparison population, because a lot of people are bringing up COVID and aging, and there's all these other confounding variables, but this comparison population will have gone through all those same things over time, but didn't have the derailment. But then they're also compared to statewide averages, and just see, are these rates higher than what we would expect just from aging or just from COVID or something like that. So, but they need a lot of people to join. They need people who are exposed and unexposed. They need people who feel sick and who don't feel sick. All of that would help their study.
As I was listening to story after story, and it hits me in the heart, and, I only kind of broke down once crying, but my comfort, my peace of mind came from the fact that I kind of brought you here. And if there's anyone that I know or have worked with I can trust, it's you. And I really, and every time you spoke, you're so sincere and so powerful. But so that helps me, because my little part is I brought the community, to the community.
Gosh.
I mean it.
Thank
you.
Oh my gosh, that's such an honor. That is so meaningful to me. Well, I feel the same way about you. Every time everybody I talk to is like, oh, Jill and Stuart, they're so great. And I'm like, yes, I have the best, I work with the best people. I'm so lucky. Thank you for saying that. I don't feel like I deserve it, but I take it to heart, and I hope, all I can say is I take this very seriously. I will do my best. We're really lucky. I think it's a great leadership from Erin Haynes, great collaborators at Pitt. My colleague, Michelle.
It's wonderful.
She's awesome. And we work together a lot. And Jim was here. I hope he comes next time.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've all worked together really well. Yeah. So I have a lot of, respect, trust, confidence that, certainly they're listening and they're responding, and we're all going to bring all our knowledge to try to do it within the resources we have, of course. Even the best measurements are only at discrete points in place and time and discrete chemicals. So, the model can try to interpolate and fill in the gaps, and simulate things, with using all kinds of data, like the topography and the soil quality and the depth of people's drinking water wells, kind of feed all of that into this state-of-the-art model, all these variables. We did it for fracking, dozens of variables, and, try to have some answers, is it possible there could still be ongoing contamination
of drinking water?
Yeah. I mean, there has been a lot of remediation as well. So the more information we can get to try to, but we'll first do our model, like to get the worst case scenario, like assume everything's filled, all the chemicals, moved easily through the environment and there was no remediation. We can do kind of lots of different scenarios. And even share, and then we have like a range, like here's what's likely to have happened, so.
Wow. To me, that's just amazing.
The good thing, too, is Jim said we're going to be able to eliminate so many areas, too, because you could live very close to the derailment, but the water is flowing away from your house. So
important to know. So how are you feeling after this? I mean, where do you getting back on the plane with today?
Okay, well, maybe I'll end with my hopeful thought, but I mean, on one hand, it's really frustrating. I was saying this to Stuart earlier. I just really feel frustrated that we, in this society, we've enabled all this amazing technology and growth, and we have all this Amazon and Google, like have all this data and information, and then like public health and environmental health is just like decades behind. We haven't invested. We don't monitor for nearly enough chemicals in nearly enough places. So that's really frustrating because we could do so much more if we had more data, more resources, more infrastructure. It's just not there. So we're always playing catch up. And I feel like that does a disservice to the residents. A lot of people expressed concern about or sentiment that there was anti-rural bias and, in society and research, So I heard that many times, and that also just makes me frustrated. I think you're absolutely right. There's a huge rural bias in where and when we're collecting environmental information. So I'm glad to be here. And I think we need more study of the environmental situations in rural areas. And have a plan. It seems some of these things seem so obvious. Like a disaster happens, there should be a plan, a template, a protocol. These things just don't really exist. Anyway, so those are some of my frustrations. But I guess the most uplifting things I heard. One was from you that the research takes time and it can lead to meaningful change. And then Erin Haynes gave an example of another community, I think that had a uranium plant where there was a huge investment in the infrastructure and the health monitoring, and that the community actually was healthier in the end, even after experiencing all this exposure, because they really started paying attention and was intentional and they had programs. And already the city manager, Antonio, was talking about, we need to invest in public health like we invest in economic growth. And so I feel also a bit hopeful.
Yeah, me too. And then add in the fact that I think the best possible team has been assembled, and you're here on the ground and it's begun.
Yes.
And as I said before, I have total confidence and trust and so grateful that you were chosen, you're here. And so that brings me peace of mind.
Thank you.